Today I'm going to cover various subjects with you. It's going to be all around how Williams Formula One team and their technologies can be transported and transformed into industry in different sectors. The first one I want to cover with you is the efficient use of machinery and the impact of data availability. How has better access to real-time data changed the way we optimize machines and systems?
Well, previously in Formula One, we've always had the luxury of having huge amounts of data. It's well known there's thousands of sensors all across the Formula One car through the engine, the energy recovery systems and so on. And that's always made it very easy, comparatively, to analyze that data and to make informed decisions based on that data. In the past, you get other systems where you'd love to have that much data, but it hasn't been possible. And in my career, many years ago, it was always difficult to get the data and the information that you needed to make informed decisions. However, as we all know, in recent times, there's so much more data available, and with cloud usage, there's huge amounts of data available in the cloud from many sources. And as such, it's far easier now to use that data, and it's not actually the limitation of the data, but how quickly you can use it and make informed decisions from that data.
So what if the data's not available within, obviously Williams Formula One has a plethora of data available, but what if a general industry has not got that data? What do you do then?
Well, often you can infer the data, and it's important that you can understand whether you're basing, let's say, inferred data on something that's already inferred, and then you're building error upon error and so on. So it is important to understand the data source, how it's used, how it's derived. But in doing that, our skills and expertise allows us to really understand how to take the data we have available and make best use of it. But also, it allows you to understand what is the data that's missing? What is the key that if we can obtain this additional sensor, for example, by taking that data on board, we can then open up a whole range and array of data and information from that sensing system.
In terms of real-time data and how it helps optimize some performance and performance predictions, what are some of the external factors that can now be included, like weather or things like that? What can you give me an example?
Absolutely. There's as you know, in Formula One, they have, as you said, they have the weather condition, which is obviously an input to their models, but also in marine applications, for example, taking data from tide tables and understanding prevailing wind conditions and so on can really give you an indication as to how your efficiency might be affected in the operation of a battery-operated ferry, for example, and that allows you to then make best use and efficiency of the energy that you have available to you and use that data to make the decisions that can allow you to really right size and be really efficient and optimal with the technology solution you put in place.
So things like weather and road conditions, for example, with a vehicle, they can have a massive impact.
Exactly, yes. And many road cars, automotive cars these days, as you know, they're all connected to the internet, and as such, your Google Maps, for example, looks at the traffic conditions in real time and uses the devices that are on people who are stuck in the traffic to understand there is in fact a traffic jam. So that data is up in the cloud already. But additionally, when you understand the topology of the route that you're taking, for example, inclinations and gradients, and also, as I said, wind conditions and weather conditions, and then potentially how long ago the weather was wet as to how dry the road may be. And you can also continually learn and educate and inform these models so that they become more and more accurate in the future.
So coming back to data then, what's the biggest challenges that you see when using data from so many connected systems? And a secondary question is, to throw a secondary question at you, can you do some specifics around ownership and privacy?
Yes, and I think you hit the point there, which is the ownership of the data. Whilst there is all of this data there, again, we all know that our phones are doing a lot of things that maybe we're not aware they're doing in the background. And there's been a lot of high-profile cases where, and there's even people contacting you about the ability to kind of claim damages for people misusing your data and having taught models without your actual know and say so and involvement. But for sure, the ownership and the privacy is important and is something that needs to be considered in contracts and when you set up this data effectively. It's those systems and whilst all this data is there and available, it doesn't mean it's actually free for use by everybody, and you have to have clear guidelines and operational understanding of the data and the source of the data to ensure that you're using the data in the manner it was intended to be used.
So, other than ownership and privacy, then, are there any other big challenges when using these big connected data systems?
So typically, I think whilst that data is available, potentially, subject as we just described, there's also the understanding where that data came from and the relevance of it. Whereas I described previously in non-Formula One applications, you typically didn't have the data available to you. Now that you have all of this data, the challenge is actually processing that data in a manageable time frame. So whilst there's gigabytes of data in the cloud, you have to really get close to very quickly and efficiently honing into the part of the data that you need that's going to give you the information that you require.